Hello and welcome to the 50-cent tour of Friday, August 23rd, 2013. Please find a seat on the Liberty Bus and we will begin our tour of the day. I did something a little different with today's tour. There aren't that many sites that we are visiting, but the ones that we are visiting are important, significant. I want to give a little deeper look at some things. First of all, from the Vatican website, Apostolic Letter from the Supreme Pontiff Francis on the jurisdiction of judicial authorities of Vatican City-State in criminal matters. This is just a part of what I want to bring up. Supposedly on September 1st, some things are going to change rather significantly, and people in the church are going to be more accountable for their actions. And some people believe that this is actually going to reach beyond the church. And I will have a link to the website where someone was discussing that. It is a forum and you would have to join. But people were discussing the possibility that the influence of the church in the new requirements for accountability that are going to start September 1st will actually reach beyond the church. And, well, I'm not entirely comfortable with that because of the assumption that God's will and purposes are represented by this one group of people. There are historical legal aspects to the church whereby the church can require things. But the church has a very, very long reach. And you might have heard me say in the past that in the days of King John and Pope Innocent managed to get King John to sign over all of England, all of the people of England, all of the colonies of England, all of the colonies that ever would be associated with England, which is pretty much the whole world. And I personally don't feel that I am owned by the church. But if good can, I'm owned by God because I've yielded my life to Him. But the church is something different. However, if these historical jurisdictions of the church can help to address crimes, criminal behavior among people at very high echelons of government and leadership, then I could see that this could help to restore our world. And ideally, that is the hope of the people of God, that Jesus said that we would be salt, that we are supposed to be salty, that we are the ones who preserve the world. And if that salt is really resident within the church, then there is tremendous potential for healing and restoration coming through the church. It's just experientially we have not seen that due to the corruption in the church. The future, things might change, and I think that we need to really remain on our guard. But Benjamin Fulford and David Wilcock and many others have been talking about positive change that's coming this fall. And some of it may be triggered by this September 1st requirement of the Catholic Church for greater accountability. So it's just something in a very large perspective, on a very large scale, that is going on and that probably will have consequences for good. And some of the things that I'm bringing up today, they are more sweeping. And of course I could have put in chemtrails in Fukushima because those are very sweeping issues that affect a lot of people. But I'm more today, I want to be more in the political vein, more in the human behavior as it directly impacts other humans. And just take a look at some, what I would consider maybe trends. This trend, not a good one, is the media covering up the beginnings of a race war. I happen to be Caucasian. I went to an elementary school that was very mixed as far as race. It was a city elementary school. I wouldn't exactly say inner city, but very much urban and very racially mixed. And I had many friends who were other races. So this, and I was beat up a few times, but when I was beat up by white kids. So what I'm saying is not because I'm racist, but you know, as white people, have we abused being a majority in the past? Sure, we have. Can we offer repentance? Can we try to, you know, lend a hand, pull people up who are in worse circumstances? Yes, of course. The Bible tells us that we, you know, I urge you to remember the poor. If race happens to be associated with poverty, then it's not the race so much that we're even addressing, it's the poverty. But, you know, we're not meant to isolate ourselves in communities where, you know, where we never have to deal with people who are different from ourselves. Now, historically, actually, that is how people have lived, and it's natural to feel tribal and to want to be around people who are like you. And most people choose their spouses based on, you know, how similar features like ears and noses are. So there is a natural biological drive to want to be around people who are like us. But we can overcome that and love everybody. I mean, that's just the attitude that Jesus had. He in certain ways he denied the Samaritans access, or he told the Samaritan lady that only the children, which meant Israel, could have the children's bread. But then actually the Samaritan lady said, no, please, heal my child. I think that's what it was. And her pressing him and her faith pleased Jesus, and he did as she asked. And then, of course, he spent some time in a Samaritan community, and he told the story as a good Samaritan. So Jesus, I'm going to say, was not racist. And that was even in the context of a country that was very isolated, as far as, they didn't really have a red carpet that they rolled out for foreigners. They liked to remain isolated. So within all that framework, and I'll probably end up cutting a lot of that out, it probably sounds like gibberish, but I do want to address this. If white people are getting killed and beaten up because they are white, and this is happening to them as a result of racism from other races who don't like them because they're white, then white people have the right to say, this is racist behavior against me. And we had the Australian guy who was killed. I guess that was part of a gang initiation. If gangs have initiations where they kill somebody of another race? Please, what is that? And we can only address problems that we're willing to acknowledge. And this is a problem in our culture. And I believe that we need to address it. We can't just feel embarrassed or ashamed because we're white. If we happen to be white. If we happen to be another color, nobody wants anybody to apologize for that either. We just have to let people live their lives and not kill somebody because they're in some group. And just right now I'm thinking about Sly and the Family Stone and some of the songs they did, and just the great attitude of, hey, we're all people together. We're all in this together. Different strokes for different folks. We can't apologize for who we are. We can change if we're something that's wrong or evil, but we're born as we're born, and that's true of all of us. Now I want to move away from that topic, even though it's a huge one, and I have more links for this topic than I had for the other two. This is something that's happening, that is affecting us on a very large scale, and that is the NSA and what they're doing in spying on us, and what the police are doing as they become more militarized, as the extent of their influences reaches more and more into our personal lives. Yesterday, Obama said there are no allegations the NSA is trying to listen in on people's email. I have some. I mean, it seems obvious. And here is a quote from this article, which happens to be from the Weekly Standard. On the NSA surveillance program, Cuomo asked, "Are you confident that you know everything that's going on within that agency, and that you can say to the American people, it's all done the right way?" And the answer is yes, but what I've also said is that it can only work if the American people trust what's going on. Hey, why? Why should we trust what's going on? I have been hearing that what the information that the NSA gleans is used to make local law enforcement aware of people who are breaking laws. And sometimes, it's not a big law. I mean, it's not like it's not terrorism or murder or planning a military revolution or anything like that. It can just be drug use, things of that nature. Things that are, okay, they're illegal, but they're not. They don't affect that many people, and they're only illegal because, let's face it, during Prohibition it was illegal to drink alcohol. Some of these things, and it hasn't always been illegal in our country. If you watch movies about the Old West, you'll see women drinking out of laudanum bottles. Well, laudanum was an opiate similar to heroin, and people used to use it for headaches. It was a very wide use, and it's very subjective. If you go by common law, those kinds of things, probably that behavior would probably not even be unlawful. So I did a search for this search was NSA local law enforcement evidence planting, and I got a lot of returns here, mostly having to do with the DEA. But this is the article that I chose to go to the link. Sawed off law enforcement using NSA spying to go after ordinary crimes. this paragraph of this article in irregulartimes.com says, reporters at Reuters have obtained documents showing that the DEA has been given access to the gigantic databases of Americans' telephone and internet communications seized by the National Security Agency. The DEA is being allowed to search through the surveillance records without obtaining any search warrant in order to launch investigations of Americans involving illegal drugs. And of course, they're not the NSA. This whole thing is just so incredibly wrong. And there's even an it's even an official program that's called SOD, interestingly enough. And SOD stands for Special Operations Division. And if you don't understand the British swear phrase, sod off, it has to do with sodomy. So enough said, I think. And I can't help but believe that they intentionally called this program by this name because, of course, it is doing that. It is, inserting government intrusion into people's private affairs. And I was, it's just shocking that our private lives are under that kind of scrutiny, and law enforcement can show up at our door or pull us over in our car anytime and accuse us of whatever they want and say they have evidence. And if there is no evidence, they can always plant some evidence, and it's known that police have done that for a long time. So I learned about this guy, Jamie Balagia, or Balaya, Blagia. This website is the DWI Dude. Now, this guy's in Texas, and I'm just giving him as an example. And this is the good news that I'm going to end with today, is that there are ways to fight the system, but we have to be very intentional about it, and we have to be fairly aggressive about it. And although this guy's in Texas, he has a book, something like What to Do If You Get a DWI, or something like that. And he teaches people and attorneys how to address these charges. And now, I'm not advocating drunk driving or anything like that, but we've been stopped driving home from a long distance away at 2 o'clock in the morning and given accused of driving erratically, changing speeds erratically. And we actually had cruise control on in the car. And I wasn't the one driving, but I pointed that out to the officer. Erratic speed. No, you can see the cruise control light right there. But they're gunning for people. That's really what I want to say. They are out there making money off of this. This is a revenue stream. And even beyond being a revenue stream, it's a privacy invasion. It's pushing into people's lives. And this is not constitutional. So here's, this is from a year ago. Jamie Balagia, How to Defeat Predatory Cops and Prosecutors, a YouTube video. And when, as we watch the world change, as we watch these things happen, we don't need to just take it. And I think, many of us have been raised to be nice, to be polite, to not react, to not talk about politics and religion. But there comes a time when we really need to stand up and defend our own selves and be counted among those who are defending liberty. because the people who are going after us are not polite, they're not nice, and they don't have any kind of governor, that the internal governor that is going to stop them from being aggressive toward us. So sometimes it's incumbent upon us to be aggressive as well in resisting these forms of tyranny. And hopefully in standing with people of influence like maybe the Pope and others who are going also to take a stand against tyranny, against abuses of power, and hopefully all of us together will be able to see a new world, not a new world order that is planned by the Bilderbergers and others, but a world where there is liberty and justice for all. So with that, hoping that you have a delightful weekend, and there aren't too many summer weekends left, so I hope you enjoy this one. The Daily Tour is a presentation of She Who Will Walk in the Dark Productions, and we thank you for joining with us in today's tour. Might seem dark now, but you know, the dawn is coming, and weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Hoping that you will love one another, take care, insist on liberty, and not be fooled again.